If the numbers are to be believed, and with so many varied polls out there, it seems to be the smart thing to make that distinction every day. Neither Hillary Clinton nor Donald Trump have a chance in Hades to be elected president. Counter that with the fact both will do very well tonight in a pair of primaries, and you have the usual political paradox. Let's dig into what's behind these numbers with the human element from the ground. Covering politics in the Grand Canyon State, welcome congressional reporter from the Arizona Republic, Rebekah Sanders. And covering politics for the Beehive State, welcome Washington correspondent for the Salt Lake Tribune, Thomas Burr. I want to thank you both for joining us. Thomas, let's get to you in Utah first. When 26 Republican governors announced that Syrian refugees weren't welcome in their states last fall, Gary Herbert, who's a Mormon, the Utah governor, lone Republican governor to declare his state would accept them. In light of what has happened today in Brussels, there's an awful lot of traffic going on about immigration, immigrants, closing borders. Do you think this will have any effect whatsoever on the Utah voter when they go to the polls today?
You know, actually, probably not. We have to know here that Mormons, which dominate Utah, some 60% of Utah residents are Mormon, are very immigrant friendly in many ways. A lot of them have served missions abroad. They've been in different countries. And Mormons themselves think of themselves as immigrants in some way. They were, pushed across the country in the founding of the church. So Mormons are kind of an immigrant-friendly group. I don't think that's actually going to play too much of a factor into today's decisions.
Now, we've heard some of the reports in Brussels that there were a couple of Mormon missionaries, I believe, or people who were on missions who were injured in the attacks. Again, the question is, having their own people hurt in something like this, what kind of an effect, or are you hearing any effect, people talking about this now, about going into areas where people can be killed by these terrorists?
It's incredibly unfortunate. Yes, as I understand it, 3 Mormon missionaries were in the airport in Brussels and were injured. They're now hospitalized. Nothing life-threatening that I'm understanding so far. But there's obviously some traffic about that today. People are talking about that on Twitter in Utah. They're talking about it over the back fence in Utah. There are definitely some concerns, but the church has never shied away. The Mormon church has never shied away from sending missionaries into places unless there's an absolute risk. And that honestly could be anywhere in the world these days when it comes to terrorism.
Let's talk about the other state, if you will, and let's go ahead and talk about Arizona, Rebekah. Here's the thing that catches everybody. Donald Trump has the very strong support of a lot of people there. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, former Governor Jan Brewer. Last summer during a rally in Phoenix, he said that illegal immigrants, quote unquote, flow in like water. And it is still a lot of the immigrant issue here. Is that what simply is driving Donald Trump to what many believe will be a resounding victory here? Is that immigrant stand?
I definitely think here in Arizona that is a huge question. Certainly, we have grappled with the immigration issue, with border security for years. And folks who are coming out for Trump are definitely animated by his promises to build a wall and to crack down on illegal immigration. But also, I would say that the Arizona electorate is just an electorate that has an anti-authoritarian streak. It just always has. And I think he appeals to that and almost hurting Ted Cruz, even though you think of him as quite an anti-establishment guy. But, he's getting all these endorsements from folks in Arizona's congressional delegation and state leaders. I think in some ways that almost works against him. I mean, we're a state that has censured Senator John McCain, and that just shows the kind of, among conservative Republican voters, where their loyalties lie.
Let me look at this really briefly then, because people, Rebekah, say that if John Kasich was out of the race, those votes would probably go to Ted Cruz, and he might actually defeat Donald Trump in Arizona. Is there any conventional wisdom that says that might be the case?
I think this is a huge question. Arizona does lots of early voting, and so many ballots came in before Rubio dropped out, and there was a lot of support for him that might have gone to Cruz. And then also the Kasich votes, I think there is a segment of Arizona that is going to go for him, so that anti-Trump possibility is divided here and probably will not be enough to overcome Trump's lead. But even if Ted Cruz was the only other candidate in the race, I still think that Trump would prevail because, Ted Cruz's campaign just hasn't had the resources and hasn't been on the ground or had him making a lot of appearances in enough time to sway the vote.
I only got about 90 seconds left here. Let me come to you, Tom, because there was an interesting cartoon from the Salt Lake Tribune showing the GOP looking to Ted Cruz because they find Donald Trump rather creepy. And I got to tell you, it's a little bit of a creepy cartoon in itself. Is that really, you think, how the people in Utah feel?
Our cartoonist Pat Bagley is just truly amazing at capturing the moment. Rubio had a lot of fans in Utah, and I think they were very much looking forward to supporting him when this day came. Now that Rubio's gone, they're kind of stuck between the two people. They're not really sure what to do. Kasich's there as well, but he's not going to garner that much. They don't see him as going the long haul. So right now, it seems like a lot of people like Mike Lee and Governor Herbert and Mitt Romney are kind of holding their nose and picking Cruz.
That cartoon leaves something that we just can't get out of our mind here. 10 seconds, unfortunately, Rebecca, to you, but a 10-second answer. Do people in Arizona actually honestly believe Donald Trump will build a wall?
I think that Trump voters are voting more on attitudes than on specifics. And so I don't know that they necessarily think an actual wall will go up, but certainly they're hoping that more enforcement measures will take place.
But they like the attitude. There you go. It's all about that too. Rebekah Sanders Thomas Burr, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time and your great work. I want to remind everybody, you want to talk about doing some great work, our team will do it tonight as we bring you live coverage of Arizona and Utah starting at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. It is only right here on Newsmax TV. The man called the only true conservative left in the chase might be getting a key endorsement. That's next.